A very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Career Mantra session. How to score winning internships is something that we're going to talk at length right now. It reminds me of a line by Benjamin Franklin. Tell me, I forget. Teach me, I may remember. Involve me, I learn. Getting involved and learning is a beautiful way of learning things. And that's what internships actually teach us. During this session, please feel free to ask your questions, jot them down onto the chat section. I'm Sridevi Sira, leading the Academia for FutureSkills Prime. This is the National Digital Skilling Platform and a joint initiative of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology and Nasscom. We have with us Archana, a business leader with 15 years of extensive experience in entire gamut of employability spanning strategy formulation, partnership development, talent acquisition, skill enhancement, and placements. She's in fact the author of Place Mentor, a best-selling publication from Oxford University Press to develop key skills of employability and prepare for successful placements. Archana has a unique blend of entrepreneurial and corporate experience. As an entrepreneur, she has pioneered the concept of campus recruitment training and co founded and scaled one of India's leading employability training companies that has enhanced the employability of close to 2 million students across the country. In her current role as a Director of Partnerships and Talent for Asia Pacific region of Willy M3, she focuses on identifying and nurturing potential entry level talent for technology roles with global organizations through round the year internship programs in different career pathways. This is beautiful to have you over here, Archana. Thank you so much for joining us. It's going to
Thank you,
be
Sridevi.
interesting to talk about internships. Of late, we hear very often about internship and the significance of internships in the last 24 months in a virtual mode has actually multiplied in many fold. That's precisely what I have been feeling. Do you think the internships, the way the companies are looking at internships, has changed, Archana?
Well, I would say the idea of an internship has changed dramatically over the last couple of decades, I would say. So earlier, internships had a flavor of more like you can see, but you cannot touch approach. And today, it's much, much more hands on. And the concept of internships, in fact, has become prevalent in pretty much every field, starting from medicine, engineering, law, journalism. There are interns everywhere. And the idea today is not just getting a glimpse, but the actual experience of the real work world. So companies are now, in fact, actively seeking out interns because it's a great way to spot talent early on and actually play a role in developing and shaping them. And you might recollect at one point it was pretty difficult to find good internships unless one had, say, the right academic pedigree or top-notch academic scores or maybe even family connections for that matter. But today there are tons of internship opportunities and in fact structured programs, I would say, that gives a fairly level playing field for students with aptitude and interest. So yes, I do believe the concept has changed.
Actually, yes, that takes me to the way I was actually looking for internships when I graduated. I'm talking about ages back. The scenario over there was totally different. It was not very easy to get internships, and it was a hell of a struggle to get there. And probably the knowledge of internships itself was very low, and that's the reason why I think today internships means the students know about internships pretty clearly, and I feel it's more glorified today. It's more easy and appealing for everyone. What do you say?
Of course, and I think there is greater impetus also for students to start doing internships because these have become a recognized channel for gaining entry into these organizations. So it's not just about learning. Of course, I would still say learning is the most important thing, but internships have invariably become gateways to starting their careers. And therefore, I think it's become a rite of passage, so much so that it's now mandatory with many universities that students do at least one internship, if not more. So it's much, much more accepted.
Right. So in past few years that you have been working on talent piece, I wanted to understand from you, what is your take? I mean, are learners who are seeking internships, they merely pick up these for academic reasons, or is there anything beyond academic reasons that they actually pick up these internships? What are they looking forward to learn while they are getting interned?
Well, to be perfectly honest, there are a spectrum of reasons why students do internships. So, of course, the least desirable is because you have to check off the internship box because you had to do it. So, that's probably one reason, definitely. But I think with increasing awareness, students are also becoming conscious of the benefits of the internship. When I say this, they understand that, I mean, it's quite natural that maybe at 19, 20 years of age, you don't quite know what career path you would want to exactly pursue. So, internships give an opportunity to explore waters and see what's out there in the world and figure out what one might like. So, it definitely works for this reason. The second, of course, is it helps a lot with CV building. So I would always urge students to start looking at their profile building as early as their first year of college if they can. Not that you know what you want, but at least to discover what you might want, and helps with CV building. And of course, finally, today internships also give great career opportunities.
Ah, that's true. In fact, an internship is basically a professional learning experience that actually offers meaningful practical exposure and work related to students in the field of their study or career interest that they are looking for. And hence, it is highly meaningful, not just a tick mark activity of, just completing it for academic purposes. But if you are planning to have a career aspiration, then I think internship is the best way to actually get started. And basically it gives them an opportunity of exploring and being on the development and also learn new skills while they are actually doing internships. What's your take on developing the new skills while they are actually interns?
Well, I would say ideally that should be the case, and interns should, in fact, actively look at building their skill sets while doing the internship. So often, students always want to intern in the largest organizations, and they're not that keen interning with smaller organizations. But I, in fact, tell them all the time that maybe in a large organization, there's always a fairly siloed approach, and every department has only specific functions that they do, and hence their exposure may not be as vast as it might be, say, in a startup where they get to get their hands dirty on a wide variety of projects. So it's really about learning. But having said that, I should also say that there is a fair amount of competition in landing internships in the first place today. So there is a lot of competition because everybody is clamoring to get into the topmost organizations. So it's always good that students start working on certain skills even prior to the internship. And having said this, it's not just when I say skills, again, students might wonder saying, don't know what I want. So I would always say focus on the basics. I mean, there are some things that are always going to be important. Say in our own internship programs, we see that a lot of candidates, in fact, a significant majority, get eliminated surely on account of communication skills. So that's something that everyone can work on. Team skills, all the more critical in an online world where everybody's working virtually. So these are skills that candidates can definitely start building early on.
Yeah. So that means it's just not the subject level knowledge of what I'm actually qualifying or, participating as a graduate, but also an equal importance is definitely there today on the professional skills part of it. Like you just highlighted, being as part of the team, being a team member, how well you coordinate and how do you take those learnings of participating in a team, how well you can negotiate your ideas forth, to the team, and how do you basically do a little bit of time management. That's something which is very crucial for learners. I think these are all some of the nitty gritties that an intern can definitely learn while they are, actually learning the technical elements are English given, and these are professional things that they definitely capture on, right?
Absolutely. So, in fact, each time we start, like, we always take on interns in batches at Wiley. So, every time we start a batch, orientation day, I think it's sort of become a part of my whole speech, I would say. So, I keep telling them that use your internship as an opportunity to transition from the student mindset to a professional mindset. So, whenever interns come in, it's very, very critical that they build their professional skills in terms of simple things like learning how to talk or asking for leave in advance. I mean, we see that, they, how do I say, conveniently jump from a student to a professional as and when it suits them. So that is not the way to go. So I always urge them to start inculcating what you call as a professional mindset.
That's true, in fact. That takes me to the another point, actually. While all of us are looking at internships, and right now we are almost talking extensively about internships, what are the first few things that a student in a college should actually prepare for before making their first application for internships? So what are the key things that they should keep in mind before they dwell upon these?
Okay. So first off, like I mentioned, I mean, the hunt for an internship actually starts way before the application process. So while one might learn about the opportunities in very many ways, and we will be talking about it later, I suppose, but one really starts preparing much much ahead in terms of having the necessary skills, having the necessary experience, at least in terms of projects. Of course, we don't expect an intern to have any real work experience, but the kind of projects they've done, the kind of courses they've learned, and what is the overall interest and aptitude they are demonstrating for that particular field or that particular role. That's absolutely critical. So um, it's funny that sometimes students get misled, and they think that they need to have multiple CVs or they need to have very long, elaborate CVs. And I keep telling them, no, all we expect is a page or two. And honestly, it's not very different, one fresher to another. But there are a few standout elements that everybody should start working on, which would make them stand out. And it could be whatever they're good at. It's not that it's a cut paste exercise where somebody learns Java, everybody learns Java. But whatever one likes, it's always good to build up on those skills and start having a think about which roles they're looking for. So there are a lot of technologies that are very, very hot today, and everybody likes to have these terminologies in their CV. So you see CVs, and there's data science, there's AI, ML, there's blockchain, whatnot, what else. But I always tell them, if you're putting something on your CV, make it a point that you can talk enough about it if you're questioned on it. So the hunt for an internship really starts before, where you start building up your skills, you start building up your portfolio. So you have something strong to get your foot in the door. And then you have the internship interview, where you demonstrate all these skills and actually show that you deserve a chance. And then what you do in the internship to make the most of the whole opportunity.
That's true. Keep it simple. Be clear on what you want to learn. Demonstrate clearly on that document what you have with you to offer to the organization. And that intent or the willingness to learn is something that should come out very clearly, because I think unless we are open for learning and a little bit of unlearning of what we have learned earlier, I don't think any internship, or for that matter, any learning is going to be any meaningful, further. Right. Let's move on. I mean, as far as an organization is concerned, I mean, so far we have spoken about what is it for a student or what is it for a learner to look at. What does an organization need to do before they actually go in for, calling in for applications for internships? Is that a
Well,
way of a future talent pipeline? Is that the way that they should look at? Or what do we say about it? Yeah,
Well, I mean, now that internships are sort of the way things happen, and a lot of companies are in fact running extensive internship programs for various reasons. First, of course, yes, it's access to talent early on, because I've always said that, while everybody's talking about the whole unemployment issue, it's not so much an unemployment issue, but really an unemployability issue. And hence, there is always the talent war where we are fighting with one another to get the best minds to come and join our organizations. So, internships give early access to candidates, and there is a very, very good opportunity to start working with them. So, while we might have multiple rounds of interviews with a candidate, it's still an interview that probably gives you a peek into what the student might be like. But the internship gives you a good 2 months or 3 months, whatever is the duration, to really understand whether one is committed, one is professional and interested.
Yeah. So, apart from just calling in for applications and also considering this as a future, talent pipeline, I wanted to understand an inside perspective of the organizations. I think I'll take the liberty of asking this to you because you've been an insider and you've been recruiting, both interns and then translating them to, your full-time employees. While the internship is in progress, is there the mentors who are actually allocated for these interns? Are they constantly looking at the real attributes of these interns? Are there internal, so to say, marking which is happening on what is this individual has to get to the table, or what is potential which is actually available, can be nurtured for our organization? Is this kind of a microscopic view happening on the student who is coming in to intern with you? I mean, I'm just talking externally, even all other organizations as well.
Of course, I mean, it definitely happens, and the degree or the intensity can vary from one organization to another. But I can probably talk in detail about what we do, which gives an overall idea. So, we did talk about the learnability of a candidate, right? And this is, in fact, something that we look for. It, in fact, is one of the parameters that we use to assess a potential intern. So when somebody is applying for the process, we have certain metrics in place, and learnability is in fact a very, very critical metric that we use because the world is rapidly changing. And my favorite quote, I would say, is in fact something that Richard Riley, who was the Secretary of State in the US for education, I think this is more than 50, 60 years ago, but it's so true for today that we are preparing our students for jobs that don't yet exist, using technologies that have not been invented to solve problems that we don't even know are problems yet. So the critical thing in all of this is learnability because it's a fast changing world and students have to be able to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So that's one aspect. And during the internship, again, we have a lot of again parameters that we look at. Domain skills, of course, how good is one in the core skills or technology skills, but that apart, attitude is a very, very key skill. So when you say attitude, is one able to collaborate easily with other members of the group? Are they supportive of their peers? How do they manage their time? Are they able to handle priorities well? These are some of the factors that we definitely look at.
Yeah, I think yes, that's really important. Now let's just quickly spend a couple of minutes in understanding, pre-COVID and during COVID, there's been a lot of a change in the way the learnability quotient or the skilling element has actually emerged and come forward. While the entire world was getting to a standstill, it was really important for a student to keep the learning journey on. And it was not easy. The challenges were plenty, and many, the organizations were also struggling to actually come to terms with what has been in ahead of them. While all this was happening, one popular thing which came up, I don't say it did not exist previously, but it did emerge as one of a best opportunities for students, is definitely the virtual internships. What is your take on virtual internships? What exactly is this virtual internship all about?
Right. So, well, with challenges come opportunities, and some of these opportunities have, in fact, worked quite well, I would say, in the last 2 years. So, virtual internships, I mean, are as good as, say, an in person internship. In fact, this is one point I wouldn't be able to emphasize enough that there is simply no difference between a physical internship and a virtual internship, in the sense that one has to be conscious of every possible thing that they might have been conscious otherwise were they to go to an office and work there. So virtual internships, in fact, I would say have a lot of benefits because A, students don't have to relocate. There's a lot of geo flexibility that's part of the process. So they can sit in their homes and intern in a company that might have an office in Mumbai or Noida or Bangalore, wherever it may be, and there are no geographical limitations. And interestingly, this year we also found that as colleges have started opening up and students are expected to start going to the colleges and attend in person classes, again, virtual internships have been very helpful because these students are still able to contribute and understand what it is to do an internship while being able to manage their academics as well.
Yeah, actually, then, internships today, they play a very, very crucial role in shaping up, the careers of these learners. It also helps the undergraduates and graduates gain real exposure. Working environments are totally different, and especially so in the virtual kind of an environment, it was slightly difficult for students to adopt to it. But thanks to the technology and the way the organizations also came forward, blended the entire scenario and made it really, really, easy for learners to pick up even these virtual internships. In the recent times, we have also partnered with you, and we've done that, job fair also with you, wherein we had opportunities extended by you, which really got picked up by our students. And thanks to that, part of it, I think now I see some questions which are actually coming up from the students. And the one of the first questions that I'm able to see is how to apply off campus for college students, especially if you're from tier 2 and tier 3 city colleges.
Okay,
That's
so
the question.
first things first, I would always urge students, and I'm going to segue a bit here, but it's an important context I'd like to establish that there's a lot of market rhetoric, right, in terms of there are only these many thousand jobs available or only this is available. So I would really urge students to look past the market rhetoric and actually not look at the numbers of how many jobs are there or not there, because all they are focused on is getting that one opportunity, and that's all one needs. And I would say the best way to apply today is taking a very focused approach using LinkedIn, and not, I wouldn't really advise doing random applications or what is called as the spray and pray method, where you send off a generic CV to hundreds of organizations and just hope that somebody gets back. So it's really possible to take a very focused, targeted approach using LinkedIn. So, ideally, first things first, it's important that students have a good LinkedIn profile, and we could talk about it later in detail if we do have the time. And when I say this, it's important that they put all their credentials, their achievements, and now LinkedIn has a lot of certifications available as well, and they're able to earn these badges. So I would urge students to do all of this to make their profile as impressive as possible and reach out to the right people. So it's important to have a focus list of organizations where you might like to work and have that list with you, and then reach out to the right people in these organizations. And maybe a hack would be look at posts that are specifically looking at internships, or look at posts where companies are calling out for internship applications. And this is my advice. And this apart, of course, there is always Google, job boards, loads of company websites, internship search portals. In fact, AICT has a dedicated portal now for internships. And the average youngster today spends about 2 hours on social media, I read somewhere. And then, all it takes is maybe 30 minutes of those 2 hours to actually look at industry specific articles and do some networking online. And this should be a good starting point, in my opinion.
Actually, Archana, yes, that's a brilliant point that you brought out. People spending about 2 hours on social media, and if they can spend about half an hour of that, they can actually start learning and start showcasing their badges. That takes me to what we have on FutureSkills Prime. This is a platform which is the regional digital skilling platform, as I said. And you have 10 emerging technologies and 10 professional skills which are listed out over here. Anybody who wants to just have an awareness about the technology, or you want to get started with it, go ahead and spend about half an hour over there, and there you go, you have a badge. And that's another interesting thing that can be shared onto LinkedIn. While they are, you highlighted how the LinkedIn profile is very important. Adding up these badges that you are on the path to learning, on the path to scaling yourself and to the expectations of the industry. I think that's something which learners can definitely stand to benefit. And I would urge all the learners who are available on the on this call right now to go ahead and spend some time and earn as many badges as possible. Yes, can we have the next question? Yeah. What is an ideal time period for a good internship? Archana?
Great. It's a great question, and there are two ways of looking at it. So let me cover both. So the ideal time period for an internship is minimum 2 months because I don't see much value if it's lesser than that. So the other day, in fact, there was this one candidate in whose application I saw that they've actually mentioned an internship, but very interestingly says a 3 day internship. And my first response was, "What did you learn in 3 days?" So that wouldn't be a real internship in my definition. So at least about 2 months is a good time period for one to get an actual feel of the work and learn something tangible during that period. Now, speaking again of time period, I'd also like to highlight another question that comes up is when is the right time to do the internship? Should one start pursuing these, say, in the pre final year or the final year? So I would say after the first semester, start looking for internships. It's never too early to start. So maybe the first semester is more for one to get acclimatized to the whole university environment. But from there on out, do as many internships as you can because the more, the merrier.
Absolutely, more the merrier. Yes, I think if we go back to last March when actually the lockdown period has started, we partnered and we joined hands with AICTE to actually introduce this concept of virtual internships through the AICTE's Meet portal. We started off with Cisco virtual internships, and we were very happy that we were able to support almost about 20,000 students on this virtual internship. Currently, we are doing Microsoft AI virtual internships, and we are trying to spread that to a larger pool right now. We've already done the first lot, and first 1,000 interns have already collected their certificates, and they're all on the LinkedIn, showing what they have learned. And it's beautiful. They learn a technology. There is a real time problem statement which has been given to them. They apply what they have learned in that scenario. There are mentors who are actually mentoring them, giving them guidance on applying what they have learned to a real problem statement and coming out with a solution for that. So that's how people have been learning on the AICTE and Nasscom's intervention of internships, and we are very confident that more and more students will come forward and stand to benefit this particular opportunity which is there with them. And I think let's look at what can be the next question. Are internship valid pathways for STEM and non-STEM fields? This is a very, very interesting thing. Are they internships valid pathways for STEM and non-STEM fields? Archana, we would like to hear from you.
Absolutely. Like I mentioned a while ago, the concept of internships is prevalent in pretty much every field today. So, of course, STEM is obvious because we've been talking about it a lot now. And so, definitely, technology roles, internships are great. But not just that. I mean, you look at medicine. I mean, doctors do internships of sorts. Then lawyers go for internships. That's again there. And media, journalism, travel, tourism. So, the concept of internship is applicable for pretty much everyone because the idea is really to gain hands-on skills like we talked about. So in college there's a whole lot of theoretical skills that a student learns, but there's hardly any opportunity to apply those skills or get hands-on experience. So internships are a great starting point for that.
Absolutely. Let's look at the next question coming up. Right. I see a question in my private window. How important are projects and projects for an internship resume?
Well, projects are very, very important for an internship resume. And especially because that is one standout factor that every candidate can make use of. and they are a good indication whether the candidate is really interested in that particular subject or that particular domain. So I would always recommend that students do as many projects as possible. And again, there are certain number of projects that are mandatory that one must do as part of the academic course. So it's always good to do a couple of extra projects over and above that. And having said that, it's also important that students put some time into thinking what projects they're going to be working on, because it's always nice to pick projects that are closest to their areas of interest rather than something that's fairly generic and available. So there's always a temptation to take the easy route. But this is, again, something that students can leverage and make good use of. In fact, if they are keen on, say, something specific, like one wants to apply for an AI engineer role, which is a fairly niche area right now. So it's always good to have very specific projects in the project section of the resume, like, say, an AI model for potential disaster areas, or there was somebody who used NASA's public data sets to actually calculate the cost per mile of satellite. So these are nice projects that stand out because they're different, unique, and also confirm that the student is, in fact, interested in pursuing this field. And another small piece of advice would be that make sure the projects are put on GitHub and you link those projects to your CV. That way, whoever is interviewing or scanning the CV can actually have a summary of any projects that one might have worked on. And finally, fair warning, I'm sure I don't have to say this, but make sure that projects are not plagiarized, because one can get blacklisted very easily. And it's very unfortunate when this happens to smart students.
I know. Thanks for that word of caution, Archana. I have another question. What questions should one ask before starting an internship? What are these important questions? Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is, I'm assuming this is in an internship interview. So, whenever candidates, in fact, ask this question to me, saying, if we are given the opportunity to ask questions, should we ask questions at all, or should we not ask questions? So, I would always advise that, A, please ask questions, because here's a great opportunity for you to demonstrate your interest and your understanding of the organization, the job role. So it's good to ask questions. So you could definitely ask about what is expected of you over the course of the next 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever is the duration of the internship. So it's definitely good to get the expectations right. But just be a little cautious that this is not something that was already explained in the course of the interview. Then it would just look like you didn't understand, or you had these standard 2 or 3 questions and it doesn't create the right impression. So we just have to be cautious. But understanding expectations is great. Understanding the work culture is great. And like I said, if you are devoting about 30 minutes a day researching on the industry, on the developments in the field, it's also good to sort of use this opportunity to showcase your understanding and say that this was a great accomplishment. How did you go about doing it? Or what are your next milestones that you're looking at? So it's good to ask questions that show your knowledge, show your interest, but are not very intrusive. And definitely, I would suggest not asking very fundamental questions like what is the pay package and stuff like that at that stage.
I know it's like too premature to ask a question like that. And yeah, I see a next question. Hi, ma'am. I'm a BCA student. What internship is best for beginners in 2022?
Well, not just 2022, I would say at any point of time. I mean, the internships you choose are a function of what field you would like to pursue. So, if you know what you want, then be very specific and go after it. For example, you're interested in cybersecurity, then I would say put all your effort, channel your efforts into cybersecurity, target specific companies working on cybersecurity, and do internships there. But having said that, it's quite natural that many students are not sure what they want to do, and it's only fair because this is the time you experiment, learn, and figure things out. So in that case, then you could go wild really and apply for all types of companies and then figure out what you like. So there is no hard and fast rule that this is the internship that one should do, but really about what aligns with your interest and whether you have skills that can substantiate you getting a role in that particular organization.
Yeah. And I know that now the fresh engineering graduates can also apply for internships and employment with Wiley.
Yes, Devi. It's great that you
Right.
brought it out because, in fact, when we talked about virtual internships, most of our internships have been virtual over the last 2 years, and it's been a great opportunity because we've had hundreds and thousands of students applying for this. And one statistics I would like to share is that in 90% of the candidates who complete the internship program have secured full-time job offers with us. So it's a phenomenal success rate that we're seeing because we are quite clear about the selection process. So we are quite particular about the kind of candidates we want. But once somebody gets the opportunity, we find that over 90% of them land full-time job offers with us.
Hey, that's a brilliant statistics, and it should be a good opportunity for everybody to flood you with those applications right now. If it's a 90% track rate, then one thing I can definitely observe out of that is the kind of quality time that your mentors are actually able to spend on the people who are trying to intern with you is good, and that's why I think you are making your future, talent pipeline very stronger from there. I will definitely recommend everyone that I know of to apply for these internships which are there. What kind of skills are required when they have to apply for an internship or a offer with you?
Well, pretty straightforward. I can talk you through the process so candidates understand it's not as tough as they imagine it to be, fairly standard fare. So, we do have an aptitude test that students have to take, which covers the basics of problem solving skills, quantitative aptitude, logical thinking, etc. Then we have a coding assessment. Again, students have the option of coding either in Java or Python. They can pick the language of their choice. And we, of course, have interviews after that. So it's a fairly straightforward process. And if students have invested adequate time focusing on their fundamentals, they should be able to get through.
So I would just like to, spend a minute over here to talk about FutureSkills Prime platform and the kind of skills that one can actually acquire from there. Anybody who is looking for understanding what are these emerging technologies that everybody is talking about, what is future of work going to be all about, if they are looking for answers for these, then the answers are actually available on this FutureSkills Prime platform. 10 emerging technologies, starting from artificial intelligence to big data to AR, VR to robotics to cyber to web and mobile applications, cloud computing. Every technology is actually available on this platform. And these skills that one is getting over there is slightly different from what otherwise we look at. These are standard skills. These are called as NSQF aligned content. And this particular standards are something which most organizations actually understand and, relate to. And there is a standardization process, especially because these are emerging technologies. It's very important that we have the right, resources available with us. And when somebody has to make a beginning, the first thing is about getting awareness about a technology. So that's where the badges part, which I highlighted some time back, is going to be helpful for a student. They can just go ahead and understand and create and learn and get awareness about these technologies. Once they've done that, the next step, of course, is acquiring those skills that most talent acquisition heads are actually hunting for in the country. Those are called as foundation skills. So these are typically 40 to 50-hour duration programs inbuilt with practical exposure also in those courses. And of course, the certificate that they will get is valid and recognized because it's coming from Future Skills Prime, and Government of India is endorsing this certificate. More so, there are also certain incentives that are available for people who clear these assessments and participate in these examinations. The third category of the courses is, once you got your awareness, once you got your foundation skills, obviously you want to go a little deep dive into the technology. You want to make a specialization for yourself. That's where the deep skill programs or the focused programs are going to be really, really helpful for learners. And these are, most of our partners have actually offered those programs, and that these are all NSQF aligned courses which are visible on the platform, and we urge the learners to go forward and learn all of that. That also gives them an opportunity to participate in, various hands-on experience and exposures. Like we conduct a lot of hackathons where they can actually come forward and participate and demonstrate what they have learned. And more than that, they can also go forward and apply through Future Skills Prime to organizations such as you, and also the career fair, which is going to come up on April 7th, 5th to 7th. We are doing a career fair, and that's where we will be showcasing a lot of opportunities for them to participate, with almost about 3,000 plus opportunities which are existing, and people can actually click on the link given on the screen and register themselves for the career fair which is going to be there. Let's see what's the next question is coming up. Like Rohit, how the internship can help a fresher for interview in other companies, as majority of candidates join internship in their college period. Yeah, this is an interesting thing. Yeah.
Okay, great. So speaking of the profile building, the different ways in which a fresher can build his or her profile is projects, courses learned, and of course internships. So there was a statistic that I came across a while back, which of course it's American, but it said that 50% of employers in fact look for internships in a entry level grad CV. So the fact that you are doing internships is a great thing for your CV, and hence it doesn't matter whether one is looking for a job in that particular organization or not. But just having a few internship experiences on the CV is great for any subsequent interview. And it also helps because the whole process of an internship is more like a warm up exercise, I would say. So the fact that you've already got your CV done, gone through an internship interview, and you understand how things work in an organization. So you're sort of warmed up for the actual interview whenever that happens in whatever field of choice. So these are transferable skills mostly, because one is not going and learning just about the systems and processes in an organization, but really about how a corporate works and uh, large projects that they're working on. So I would say predominantly they are transferable and can work for any interview in the future.
An insider question, Archana. This was something which was asked to me in one of my recent visit to one of the colleges. A student was asking, while we do internship, when we go for a job interview, will more questions come during that interview from the project that we have done, or what we have learned in the college, or what we have learned in internship? So what questions do they ask more? So what's your take on this, Archana?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. So I would always tell candidates to be prepared to answer any questions on whatever they've included in their CV. So oftentimes you've had candidates come back and give feedback saying, I never expected this question. I'm not very comfortable with this particular topic or this particular subject. And the first question I would ask is, did you include that in your CV? And then they would say yes. And so, whatever one puts in their CV, they can definitely expect questions on those fronts. So, it's quite natural that there would be questions around projects. And speaking of projects, again, it's important that students are sort of honest in giving answers about their projects. There are group projects, there are individual projects, and it's always important that they highlight whether the project is, in fact, an individual project or a group project. And it's fine both ways. It's really not a question of one being better than the other. But if it's a group project, I always say give credit to other members of the team, and don't take an I centric approach saying, I did the front end, I did the back end, I did everything else, but rather give credit to everyone because it also demonstrates your collaboration and team skills. So, questions on internships, projects, tools, technologies, whatever is listed in the CV can be asked.
Good. So basically, let's just go. Okay, can a 2023 pass out participate in Nasscom Career Fair? Yes, please participate, check out, and the organizations will look at your profile basis, your performance. The organizations will shortlist, and then you will have the opportunities to participate. That um, that takes me to one of the questions that I have in my private window. Says, is attending workshops and doing projects necessary? If yes, what kind of things should one focus more on?
Well, Sridevi, this is really a subjective answer that I'm giving. It's more my opinion than anything else. Of course, I would advise that students do as many workshops, courses, projects as they can, while still not compromising on academics, because at the end of the day, most companies also have a basic academic criteria. So you don't do one at the cost of the other, but try to balance both. But having said this, it's also not about just going on a badge or a certificate collection spree. It's about actually learning those skills and gaining new insights and perspectives. So it's not about getting all these certificates, putting them again on the CV and attracting those questions if one is not able to answer, but about actually learning. So whether it's a workshop, whether it's a course, whether you're working with a mentor or a senior in your college, it's fine as long as you're learning things. And I would also encourage students to do a lot of not just regular online courses. Today, there are so many opportunities, which probably 10 years back, if one had to learn these skills, they might have had to go around town looking at coaching centers and things like that. But today, everything is available at the click of a button. So make the best use of it, do as many courses and even guided projects online, which do a step-by-step approach of how to use software and build things, create things. So as many guided projects online. And competitive coding is big. You just mentioned about how you again have so many initiatives that's great on future skills, and again hackathons, competitive coding.
Yeah. So this is another interesting question coming from Anita. Says, is it good to go for internship having a career break of 4 to 5 years? So I'm assuming somebody who's been in the workx, taken a break, wanting to go back with an internship. Yeah.
Well, again, a subjective answer because it really depends on what was the previous 4 to 5 years work experience on. But having said that, today there's a lot of back to work initiatives. So it may not necessarily be the case that one has to do an internship to get back to the workplace, because a lot of organizations are having back to work initiatives, especially for women. So it's good to take advantage of that. So I wouldn't say it is mandatory to do an internship to get back into the workplace. No. But in case one is looking at, say, switching careers, or you're looking at pursuing something completely different, then yes, why not? We all, I don't know, many of the listeners would have probably seen the movie The Intern, where Robert De Niro at 60 went for an internship. So I guess it's never too late to do that, but we need to have the right reasons to do it.
Absolutely. I was just thinking of that, because it's never too late and it's never too early to start off with internships. As long as you're open for learning, you're looking to learn something that you want to establish your career on. And internships are the best way that they give you a step-by-step approach, and that enhances your employability quotient as well, and demonstrates the the ability within you to actually be a best fit for the kind of opportunity that you're looking for. I think that's the way that one needs to definitely look at the kind of internship opportunities which are there. I think the world has become so small of late that you can actually sitting over here in your own living room, you can pick up an internship from across the globe, and that's some way things are opening up for gig workforce. And to get into all of that frame, it's very important how how much of technical and professional skill value addition you're doing to your profile, and how open are you to explore more possibilities that come across to you. And I think that's the best phase for anybody to start off with. And yeah, I see one more question. Can students from non-IT backgrounds also participate in the internship? Um, Simple answer is yes, but yeah, Archana, from you.
Of course, I mean, like you said, the simple answer is yes. And it again depends on when we say internships, again, they are very role specific, right? So it really depends on what are the opportunities available. So if it's, say, a software developer internship, I wouldn't advise a non IT student to participate in that. But even at Wiley, if you look at it, we run internships for both IT as well as non IT. So we have roles like software development, production support for IT students. And for non IT, we also have something fairly niche called banking services, where they get to work in top global banks. So it depends on what roles we're talking about. And one important point I'd like to highlight, because as I said this, I just remembered, it's very, very important for youngsters to have an open mindset and be flexible and willing to learn, explore new things. Because sometimes we find that there are few things that one is familiar with, and then we limit ourselves with those ideas, and they don't get to talk to this is probably one of the constraints of an online world as well, because you're not having much of real world interaction. So there are few things that they know, and then they restrict themselves to those opportunities. For instance, with Wiley, we in fact have roles like software development, production management. But because one has not heard of production management as a career, they would say, I want to be a software developer. And then if you were to ask, do you know what is the difference between the two? They wouldn't know the difference, just that one is more familiar, one is less familiar. But in fact, the salaries, the growth path, all of it is exactly the same. So I would advise youngsters to do a lot of homework, to research, and open up their worldview so that they're able to grab every opportunity possible.
Absolutely. That actually, puts me on with one thought. Today, technology is all pervasive. Whether you are looking to get into a retail sector or a banking sector or a healthcare sector, automobile sector, or so to say, any sector that you're looking at, there is technology, and technology intervention is definitely there in any of those organizations. Having a preliminary level of technology going along with, even if you're a non-tech student, that is something which is definitely going to put you on the right pedestal. That shows or demonstrates your openness for learning, and your openness that you will be able to adapt to the new changing scenarios which are going to be there. So that's why I think it's very important, even if you're a non-tech student, you come from a commerce background or otherwise, it is really important to explore and experiment more. And that's how you will open up a lot of opportunities for yourself. And like Archana said, don't silo yourself. Don't just think that this is the only thing that I would do. Today, I think if I just have to recall one of the statistics, the nature of 60 to 65% of the jobs currently in India is changing, and all of it is definitely calling out for people to learn new technologies, to embrace new technologies and move ahead on that path of learning is definitely going to be a continuous learning cycle, will always be there with us. And the day we feel that we have learned everything, then probably I don't know whether we should exist or not. But yeah, the learning is a continuous thing, and the best way to learn is definitely through internships, where you get the exposure, you get that guided and mentored environment. And thanks to organizations which are coming forward and looking at these internships as a best way to build the industry ready talent pool, not just for themselves, but also for the entire ecosystem. I think that takes us to the end of the chat. It was really interesting to talk to you, Archana. It was really insightful to hear about your thoughts and what your organization is actually doing. And that 90% is something which is clicking back on my thought process. I would definitely recommend all learners to go forward and explore more, try to check, apply with you, and also visit us at the career fair between April 5th and 7th. Explore, learn more, and check out, and then take it forward from there. Good luck. Thanks,
Thank
Archana.
you, Sri Devi. It was wonderful speaking with you.